Schiff with one of his guests about a month, maybe 2 months ago. Don't ask me the name of the guest. And they were talking about China and how strong China's economy is. And the guy says, "No, it's just a facade." He goes, "They're going to collapse in 2014." And Peter Schiff's like, "Oh, well," he says, "they got this and they got that." And he's, "Ah, no, no." He says, "I bet you right here and right now they're going to collapse in 2014." Well, what's going on in China? Well, and this all plays into what they're doing anyway. With China, they've been buying gold left, right, and center. Why? Because they're just as corrupt as everywhere else in the world. With that said, if they let it all fail, they get to start over with a new currency backed by gold, meaning they can have complete, utter control over it. So unlike the banks here where we don't let them fail and we bail them out because there is nothing to back the dollar with, or a new dollar with, that you're in a rock and a hard place. You can't you lose no matter which way you go. But with China, if the states collapse, they win. If they collapse, they'll collapse the states because it just the job losses. The Americans can't afford any more job losses. It's just like that's getting desperate. Whether the true unemployment rate is 32 or 37%, depending on who you believe. It's just too much. It's a depression. But the thing is that with China, if they let their own currency collapse, any sort of corrupt banks would be taken out. And, of course, being communist, they would probably go back to that control again. Doesn't mean they would be any less corrupt. It just means it would be centralized to probably one or two banks and just wipe out. There'd be no competition whatsoever. Kind of what happened in 2008. Think of all the banks that went under and the ones that didn't. The ones that didn't go under were the ones that got the bailouts. Now they have the monopoly. So they almost can't be knocked out unless you actually become insolvent. And that said, HSBC in China has been basically doing a small, I guess you could call it a bank, starting a bank holiday where they won't let you take out more than $3,000 a day, which sounds sounds bad, but if you look at it here in Canada, like at my own bank, I can't take out of the machine. I can take out 1,000 a day, and I think I can take out 5,000 out of my, account. Anything more than that, I think you have to do a lot more paperwork or whatever. It takes a few days to do it. If I go to an ATM machine that's not from my home branch, it's usually about $200 is the max you can take out of that. So that's the limit. Now, if we're talking about a business taking out four or five, like an individual, $4,000. I mean, number one, who the hell has $4,000 in their bank? Unless they've been saving up forever. But that's not the average person. But the business owner, they might take out $10, $12, $20,000 a day, stuff like that. Now, also, there's talks of being charged through banks. This is I heard in the States is charging you for your deposit. So not only they're charging you at the ATM for withdrawing money, but they're going to charge you a deposit. And some banks, like my bank, because where I live, it's the bank I have to kind of use. It's closed. They actually charge you a monthly fee of like 13 or 14 bucks. Accounting fees, like or maintenance fees. Exactly what maintenance do they do? I mean, what are they hurting themselves? Living off your profits. Oh, those dollar bills are just too heavy for me to carry. I chipped a fingernail. Whatever. I don't know. But anyway, this kind of plays into what the guy with Peter Schiff was saying. He says, yeah, they're going to collapse. And again, every time I hear how strong and powerful the Chinese currency is, it seems like almost 2 months later, or a month to 2 months later, you hear, well, yeah, but they're checking the books again. They did this all last year. And then, oh, no, we're good, we're fine. They figure a way to cover it, and then again, in January 31st, which today is the 29th, will some some banks basically declare belly up in China. And if they do, that's the beginning of a new recession for China. Now, China going into recession is going to have a lot of implications worldwide, even if not immediately. Because, again, if it slows down their manufacturing, well, it will trickle over here because it means the stores can't be stocked as quick. And we have no alternatives. I mean, everything is made in China pretty much. I mean, they're the world's super manufacturers, you know what I mean? So it will slow things down there, which, this is not a time for slowing down things, particularly in the States. Now, here in Canada, our dollar's been dropping like a rock steadily for the past couple of weeks. I think what it is because we were steady at around a buck something to the Americans. Our dollar was a little bit stronger for a couple of years. But I think we're purposely slowing it down so that if either China or the United States takes a big hit, our dollar will still be low enough to be attractive for people to buy, because we do 80% trade with the United States. Now, one thing my prime minister has been doing is flying all around the world making trade deals, so that when, if the United States kicks the bucket, so to speak, we still have other markets to deal with. Unfortunately, most of these markets, I don't agree with doing business with China because of their human rights. You know, and they're, not only that, okay, we're like, oh yes, we have high strict regulations here so people don't pollute pollute as much, but then we send it over to all our manufacturing over to China, so that, and they have no environmental regulations. Their whole environment is destroyed. But not only that, the pollution from China reaches here, and think about it this way, do those people not have the right to breathe clean air as well? Think about that. So with that said, it's kind of interesting. We'll have to see what happens on the 31st of February. I've been saying for a couple of months now that February was going to be an interesting month. Will we see some sort of major catastrophic failure of the system? Is this the first domino falling, and then bang, global recession? It's hard to say. Now, Canada can go either way on this, because where we are going to lose out, we can make up big in other areas, because again, people will still be buying resources from us like crazy. So, if our dollar drops, then it makes it, it makes us more attractive to export things. I mean, you want to export as high as you can. You want to import as cheaply as you can. So a lower dollar benefits some, but it hinders others. So it really depends on, the timing of it. But I think Canada, I think that's how we weathered the last storm, because we still didn't hit the 2008 crunch that they had. It's just because we're just behind the times, that's all. Now mind you, we've strictened up our bank regulations a little bit, but the interest rates, even though they raised them higher than just about anywhere else, they're still too low, to weather a heavy hit. But a light recession, we're okay. We've raised them up enough that we can lower them a bit if things slow down. But if it just crashes, well, they're not high enough. So they got to keep working on raising the interest rates and stuff like that. And we just got to stop bailing things out. That's number one. The other thing in Canada is bail-ins, like the Cyprus bail-in. That's now legal here in Canada. So understand that your accounts will be raided. But if we see a bank holiday, and bank holidays have happened before, and they're still happening fairly recently. Cyprus had a bank holiday. Okay, and even at that, there's some banks, that are still have bank holidays in Europe, where it's like you can only take out, maybe $200 a week or something like that. So you put your paycheck in, but you can't get it out, And on top of that, there's a bail-in, so they're still taking your money. So I guess, again, I'll just leave it at that. It will be interesting to see exactly where this all ends up. We won't know until January 31st. Then once they, kind of lift the curtain a bit, then we can kind of see, okay, well, China's going into a recession, whatever. Maybe they'll find a way to cheat the system, because that's the whole name of the game now. It's not that. I mean, it's the same with everything's manipulated. Gold's manipulated. The debt ceiling. Well, there is no debt ceiling. Like in the States. I mean, here in Canada, we're $660 billion deficit. Most countries would love to have that. I mean, that's not even $1 billion. That's, what I mean? Like, $1 trillion, sorry. That's not even $1 trillion. And the Americans have $17 trillion. I mean, globally, we're looking at something like $75 trillion is the amount of cash out there. And there's probably about another 200 and some odd trillion dollars, I think, is what I heard. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Of digital currency that's worthless. And most of the banking and stuff now is all digital. Cashless society. So, again, how everybody's kind of tied into each other. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So anyway, I guess with that said, that's all I can really report on. Just something I wanted to cover, just so people were aware of it. And yeah, there we go. So rate, subscribe, share, comment, like, yep. All right, some crazy things now. I was listening to Peter Schiff, with one of his guests about a month, maybe 2 months ago. Don't ask me the name of the guest. And they were talking about China and how strong China's economy is. And the guy says, no, it's just a facade. He goes, they're going to collapse in 2014. And Peter Schiff's like, oh, well, he says they got this and they got that. And he's, no, no. He says, I bet you right here and right now they're going to collapse in 2014. Well, what's going on in China? Well, and this all plays into what they're doing anyway. With China, they've been buying gold left, right, and center. Why? Because they're just as corrupt as everywhere else in the world. With that said, if they let it all fail, they get to start over with a new currency backed by gold, meaning they can have complete, utter control over it. So unlike the banks here where we don't let them fail and we bail them out because there is nothing to back the dollar with, or a new dollar with, that, you're in a rock and a hard place. You can't you lose no matter which way you go. But with China, if the states collapse, they win. If they collapse, they'll collapse the states because, it just, the job losses, the Americans can't afford any more job losses. It's just like, that's getting desperate. Whether the true unemployment rate is 32 or 37%, depending on who you believe, it's just too much.